Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Lauren, and I will be guiding you through a gentle yoga practice where we will focus on forward folds and forward bends. So, forward folds and forward bends are, if you're familiar with cat pose, the action of cat pose, drawing the ribs back, chin to the chest, and creating that shape in the spine. So we're going to be doing that throughout the practice. The intention is to open the back side of the body, not just the spine, but also through the lower back, the glutes, and through the hamstrings, really the whole back side of the body. So that's where we're going today. So I've always got 2 blocks and something for under my head. You have what you need, but we are going to start on our backs. So again, I always like to bring something under my back, on the back of my head, excuse me. But come on down onto your back. In just a comfortable position here. Any comfortable position, legs might be extended, knees might be bent. Place your arms wherever feels best for you. And just make yourself really comfortable. And then let yourself relax. Allow your body to feel heavy on the ground. Really allow the ground, the earth, to support you. Imagine it coming up to cradle you, giving the back side of your body a little hug. Knowing that you can release and relax into the ground beneath you. It is supporting you. And as you let your body relax, your muscles and bones rest, we'll shift the focus to the breath. For a few moments, just notice your breath. Noticing any quality that's coming to mind. When we're observing anything, the body, the breath, the mind, we do it without judgment. We do it without expectations. And so just notice whatever you're noticing about your breath. And then shift your focus to notice specifically how fluid your breath is, how one breath just flows right into the next. There's no interruption, there's no hesitation. The breath is so smooth and fluid and continuous, it is effortless. Now you're always welcome to continue observing your breath. This is a pranayama practice, a breathing technique, just observing your breath. But I'll walk you through a breathing pattern, and you're welcome to join me, where we'll inhale to a count of 4, hold the breath for a count of 7, and exhale for a count of 8. So we often call this the 4-7-8 breath. So we'll hold our breath again for a count of 7, which is perfectly safe unless you are pregnant or trying to get pregnant. So if that's the case, skip this practice, continue with your natural breath. But again, otherwise, holding the breath is a perfectly safe practice. Okay, so to begin this 4, 7, 8 breath, exhale completely, push all of the breath out of your lungs. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last one. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Return back to your natural breath. Notice how you feel. Continue to keep your attention inward, and if it feels right, you are welcome to silently set an intention for your practice. Silently and slowly repeat a positive word or phrase to allow it to settle in your heart. Okay, and then deepen your breath. Take deep, full, big breaths. And create movement throughout your body. Rock your head side to side. Wiggle fingers and toes, arms and legs. Give yourself a few moments to move in any way that feels good. And while you're doing that, just for a moment, I want to mention that that breathing technique, that 4, 7, 8, is meant to be a really calming breathing technique. So holding the breath for that 7 can sometimes feel like a really long time. But if that came fairly easy to you or natural to you, know that it's meant to be very calming. It has the intention of sort of stress relieving. So it's a good practice to come back to. Actually, my doctor is
studied Chinese medicine, and she's very into sort of holistic different things. And one of the first times I met with her was she gave me a handout of that breathing technique. She didn't know I was a yoga teacher, but she said, I give this to everyone just so you know, connecting with your breath and this stress relieving breath technique. So it's legit. It's real. Okay, so we're gonna meet on our backs. All right, so we'll meet with the knees bent, feet flat. Feet and knees can be either hip distance or together. Arms ideally would be out in opposite directions, but if you don't have the room, like I don't really with this curtain here, arms alongside the body, palms up, that's fine as well. Okay, and we're just gonna let the knees sway side to side, letting the spine start to warm up. So we are going to focus on forward folds or forward bends. There's just two words for the same thing, depends on who you ask. So forward folds. And of course, even though we're gonna focus the spine in that direction, we're gonna move the spine in all of its directions. So here we're twisting a little bit, and we'll twist a little bit throughout the practice, but again, the emphasis will be forward bending. Forward bends also are notoriously a calming group of poses, category of poses, I should say. So back bends tend to be very energizing and give you energy. Forward bending tends to be a little more calming, a little more soothing. So you might notice that in your own body, and you might not, and that's okay. But here again, just twisting a little bit longer, letting the legs go side to side. Know that there's no rush or hurry. Let your legs go to each side just one more time. We don't have to twist too long. And then we'll return back to the center. Again, knees bent, feet flat. This time feet hip distance apart. Okay, so we're gonna move here just in your pelvis. This is called a pelvic tilt. It's basically the pelvic action of a cat and cow. So of a forward bend and a back bend. So now we're starting to move in the direction that we're gonna be focusing on. So relax your arms, relax your legs. This really is just about your pelvis, your lower back, and maybe a little through the mid back. All right, but we're gonna inhale, lift the ribs, tip your pelvis so your belly button points towards your thighs. Your seat is still on the ground, your shoulders are still on the ground, but your ribs are lifted. You could theoretically slide your hand under your ribs, and there's some space there for your arm. Okay, and then as you exhale, push the ribs down, tuck your tailbone. Your belly button will point a little bit closer to your face. Inhale, lift the ribs, point your belly button toward your thighs, lifting the ribs up off the ground. This is a back bend. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, push the ribs down. This is the pelvic action of a forward bend, belly button to the face. Move with your breath. Inhale, lift the ribs, belly button forward. Exhale, ribs down, belly button pointing back. So as you're moving here, you can think about this a few ways. So again, thinking about where your belly button is pointing. I'm sort of a visual learner, so that for me helps. Where is my belly button pointing? What direction is it facing? That's what helps me. You can think of your pelvis like it's a rolling pin. You're rolling it forward and rolling it back. Or some instructors often cue the pelvis. Think about your pelvis like a bowl, and like you're trying to tip sort of water out of it forward and then back. Whatever visualization or, the way you need to think of it, or even just lifting the ribs and pushing them down, because if you do that, you'll be moving the pelvis as well. Now we're moving into a little bit of a back bend as the ribs lift up, but when we push the ribs down, we're not necessarily in a forward bend. Notice that the spine is flat on the mat. We're just in the pelvic action of a forward bend, but I would argue that's where most students get hung up in forward bends, is they're not engaging their pelvis in the forward bend. The forward bends often come from the mid back up to the shoulders, but that's not where they really quote unquote should be coming from. They really need to start down low at your seat, at your sit bones, at your pelvis. So we're doing that here to get into that. So let's just do this one more time, one more of each. And if you struggle with any sort of pelvic or low back issues, this is a great exercise maybe to incorporate daily, even, and it depends on how soft your bed is. You maybe could do this in bed, but this is a really great thing to loosen things up down low. When they kind of get stuck down here, right? In our hips and all that, things can kind of get like stuck sometimes. Okay, off my soapbox. Inhale. Exhale, hug the knees into the chest. Maybe you rock side to side. Maybe you stay here in the center. Give yourself a breath or two. All right, and then let's come up to a seat. So you can come through to the center, you can roll to the side, whatever works best for you. But come on up to a seat, and we're gonna be seated for a little bit, so you know I'm gonna sit on my block. All right, okay. So let your legs relax. Lengthen up through the crown of the head. Really sit up tall, but let the shoulders soften. Good, okay. Now we're gonna move a little bit through the upper back. We did down here, now we're gonna move up here. So maintain the length in your spine. Inhale, let the arms come out in opposite directions. Exhale, cross the right arm on top of the left like you're giving yourself a hug, okay? So crawl your fingertips back, reach for your shoulder blades, and lift your arms off your chest so the pointy parts of your elbows point straight forward, not down at the ground. Okay, now you should feel a stretch in your upper back. This is gonna be a space that's getting a good stretch through these forward folds. We're gonna get into it here. So lifting the arms up, and again, feeling something in your upper back, the space maybe between your shoulder blades, backs of the shoulders. You absolutely could just stay here and accomplish that stretch all the same. Or look at your elbows. If your elbows look something like this, if they have not crossed each other, stay here. It doesn't benefit to take the next variation. But if they have stacked one on top of the other, or if they have crossed one over the other, maybe you turn at your forearms so your fingertips point up towards the ceiling. Maybe the backs of your hands come together, maybe the palms come together. Again, it really is about your upper back though. So we want to focus on lifting the arms off the chest. And if your forearms look like mine, push your forearms forward. Really lengthen the space between your shoulder blades, your rhomboids. Take a deep breath. Inhale, let the arms come out in opposite directions. Exhale, cross the left arm on top of the right like you're giving yourself a hug. Now start here. Crawl the fingertips back, reach for your shoulder blades. You might get them, you might not, that's all right. And then lift the arms up off the ground, elbows point forward. You can stay here. And if your elbows haven't crossed, I suggest you stay here. Moving in the forearms isn't going to add to the stretch. But if they have stacked or crossed, you might, but don't have to, turn the arms, fingertips to the sky, backs of the hands together or palms together. Now again, arms and hands, we just want them to be comfortable so they facilitate a stretch for the upper back and the backs of the shoulders. That's your focus. So lengthen your spine, lift your arms up. If your forearms look like mine, draw them forward. Feel the stretch again in your rhomboids, posterior deltoids, in through the upper back. Take a deep breath. Inhale, let the arms come out in opposite directions. Exhale, let the arms come all the way down. Good. And then roll the shoulders a few times. So even though the stretch was meant for the upper back and the backs of the shoulders, sometimes we're sort of crunching up here while we do that stretch. So loosen it up, roll it out, do it 2 more times in this direction. And then reverse. Keeping the throat, neck, and jaw relaxed as you move just in the shoulders, about 2 more times. Okay, and then let the shoulders relax. All right, we're gonna come into tabletop, so onto all fours on our hands and knees. I always like to bring my blocks to the top 2 corners of my mat. All right, now we're gonna keep moving through the spine, moving in all of its possible directions. Most of you probably know what they all are because I say them so frequently. But We're gonna move through them. So in tabletop, hands under shoulders, spread your fingers wide. Knees under hips, doesn't matter to me if the tops of your feet are down or you hook your toes under, whatever your ankles like best. So whatever stretch they want. You wanna stretch the back of the ankle or the front of the ankle. All right, so as you inhale, drop your belly down. Belly button points towards your thighs. Drop your ribs, but lift your chest, lift your heart, look forward. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, ribs to the sky, chin to the chest, belly button points towards your face. Inhale, drop the belly, lift your chest, look forward, a back bend, cow pose. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, ribs up, chin to the chest, forward bend, cat pose. Move with your breath. And again, moving through your pelvis just like before. So we're basically adding on to the movement we were doing before. So before we were focused on just the pelvis, tipping the pelvis forward and back, and we're still doing that. So again, belly button towards the thighs and then towards the face. But we're able to create that movement, not just in the pelvis, but all the way up to the crown of the head. Let's do one more of each. And then we'll return back to the center, back to a neutral spine. So when your pelvis is in neutral, when you're here in tabletop, your belly button points straight down beneath it, down onto the mat. So not the thighs, not the face. All right, so you're gonna keep your spine in neutral, pelvis in neutral. Inhale, exhale, look over your right shoulder towards your right hip. Feel length through the left side of the torso. Inhale to the center, look to the space between your thumbs. Exhale, look over your left shoulder, look towards your left hip. Feel length in the right side. Inhale to the center, lengthen. Exhale, look over the right shoulder, lengthen the left. So move with your breath, just like this. Think about your spine being a straight line. And then a letter C. Back to a straight line. And the letter C. So we're basically doing cat and cow, but side to side instead of forward and back or up and down. Opening through the sides of the body, moving through this lateral action of the spine. Let's do one more of each. And then slowly return back to the center, back to neutral. Okay. All right, from here, from this tabletop, walk your hands one whole handprint closer to the top of the mat. We're going to come off our wrists in just a moment. Hook the toes under. Inhale, push down into the ground. Exhale, downward facing dog, just for a few breaths. So allowing your sit bones to reach to the sky. Now here, thinking about your pelvis, just because I've mentioned it so much and will continue to. In downward facing dog, can you get your belly button to point a little bit more toward your thighs? Belly button toward the thighs in downward facing dog, which might mean bending the knees. That's okay. The spine is the priority in down dog, not the legs. Take a deep breath here. Now deeply bend your knees. Inhale, look forward to the space between your thumbs, and exhale, travel forward. Maybe take little baby steps, walking forward. Forward fold, Uttanasana. We're gonna stay for a few breaths. Now, this is a forward fold, this is forward bend. This is probably the forward fold that you're most familiar with. So really notice what it feels like. This is probably your first one of the day or maybe the week. Uttanasana, forward fold. Notice what happens if you bend your knees a little bit more, a little bit deeper, maybe so much so that your thighs can let your ribs rest on them. Or maybe if you straighten your legs a little bit more. Maybe you bend one knee, keep the other straight, and switch them out, almost like you're pedaling your heels like you would in down dog. Maybe you keep your upper body still. Maybe you let your upper body sway, but really explore forward fold. Think about how often you come into this pose in a yoga practice, but how Rare, we just sort of stay and feel and move in this pose. This is the action we're going to be focusing on throughout the practice. So notice this feeling. Let's stay for 3 more breaths. All right, now slowly return back to the center. With the knees maybe just softly bent. Push the feet into the floor. Inhale, lift up halfway. Lengthen your spine. Let's pause here for a few moments. So, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Hands can always come down to the blocks, the shins or the thighs. Somewhere where you can create length in the spine. Draw the crown of your head forward, your tailbone back, like your torso is being pulled in 2 opposite directions. Spine parallel with the mat. Really grow long and tall. Inhale. Exhale, fold forward. Uttanasana. Push the heels down. Inhale, rise all the way up. Fingertips to the sky. Maybe add a bit of a back bend at the top as you look up. And slowly bring your hands to your heart. Take a deep breath in Tadasana. All right, we'll move through some half sun salutations, so basically coming in and out of forward fold. And just because I keep talking about it, and I might as well just keep talking about it, where your belly button is pointing, oftentimes in Tadasana, in this standing mountain pose, we end up letting the ribs in the belly come forward and the seat hike up, and the belly button starts to sort of point down. Maybe not necessarily the mat, but sort of, down a little bit. We want to tuck the tailbone a little bit, draw the ribs in, so your belly button points straight forward. When you're standing up in Tadasana, your pelvis is in neutral, your spine is in neutral. So belly button will point directly forward, not down, but forward. So you might have to make that adjustment. I would be very surprised if you had to make the opposite of adjustment. If your belly button was currently pointing up at the ceiling, I highly doubt that. So if anything, you might have to draw it in a little bit. I know this is a thing I have to do all the time. I have to make a conscious effort. Otherwise I'm maybe not like that, but you get the point. Okay. All right. So find your Tadasana. Ground your feet. Feet hip distance. Weight back in the heels, really push the heels into the earth. Legs should be active in Tadasana. Sometimes we think of this as we're just standing here. No, the legs are active. You maybe have to make that conscious effort of bringing your pelvis back to neutral, lengthening up through the crown of the head, relaxing the shoulders, the arms. Take a deep breath, Tadasana, mountain pose. Inhale, reach the fingertips up towards the sky. Maybe you even look up. Exhale, fold forward, hinge at the hips, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Push the heels down, inhale, rise. Make the legs do the work as you lift. Maybe you look up. We're gonna do 2 more. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. Push the heels down, inhale, rise all the way up, fingertips up, maybe even look up. We're gonna do 1 more. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Hinge at the hips, let the upper body fold. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise, make the legs do the work as you lift, as you reach, as you rise. Maybe even look up, bring your hands through to your heart. Take a deep breath into Tadasana. And for a moment, check out your form, your alignment. Are you in just as strong of a Tadasana from when you started a few moments ago? Take a deep breath.
All right, we're gonna keep moving. So inhale, reach the fingertips up. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step the right foot back, maybe bringing your hands onto blocks and dropping the right knee down onto the ground. Okay, so we're going to be here for a little bit. If you want to put some padding under that right knee, you are welcome to. All right, so we're going to focus here on lengthening through the legs, and then we're going to add the forward bend and the forward fold in the spine. So from here, we're going to crawl the left foot forward, all the way forward, so that it can eventually lengthen and allow the left toes to reach up towards the sky. So you're pushing your left heel forward towards the top of your mat, your left toes up towards the sky, so the back of the left leg can grow long. Now, this really is the focus, the back of the left leg, but check in with the right leg. We hope that your right hip is stacked over the right knee. So sometimes students end up sort of reaching back, shifting forward, side to side. So think about from every direction, which I know is tough for you to see in your own body, but we want the femur, the thigh bone, to be a vertical line from all directions, from all viewpoints. It's a straight line. Okay, now, you want to think about really reaching the left heel forward, but the left hip back. So it's possible to crawl the left heel way forward. I don't know if you can see me right now. My heel is way forward, the leg looks nice and long, but my belly button is pointing over to the top right corner of my mat, which is not helping my hamstring. I don't feel anything in my hamstring right now. So we gotta square the hips. So the left hip and the right hip need to be in the same plane, in the same line. Belly button is pointing straight forward, probably down a little, that's okay. And I want you to think about, as you're reaching the left heel forward towards the top of your mat, reach your left hip back. And just like that, I don't even know if you could see the movement I just did. Now I feel it. Just boom, it just turned on. It's comfortable. It's very comfortable. But you've got to make that conscious effort of drawing the left hip back, arguably maybe even the right hip forward. Left toes to the sky, left heel forward. Okay. Now this is the half splits, Ardha Hanumanasana. Now you can keep your hands pushing down, lifting your chest just like this. All right. Or you can add a forward fold. So if it's comfortable in your hamstrings and your spine, you might start to round forward, letting your chest and your ribs drop down towards the ground, almost like you're reaching your nose towards your knee or your shin. It won't get there, that's okay, mine won't either. Maybe you even lower the blocks or get rid of the blocks. But again, this is Ardha Hanumanasana, the half split. So we want to make sure that that right thigh, that right femur is still a vertical line. Drawing the left hip back, left heel forward, left toes to the sky, and then maybe rounding forward. We'll stay for 3 breaths. Okay, now slowly push your hands down, lift your chest, return your torso back upright. So if that means grabbing onto blocks, lifting the chest so the spine is more in neutral instead of that forward bend. Okay, now you're gonna slide the left heel back a little, bend the left knee, plant the left foot down onto the ground. Now we're gonna hook the back toes under, lift the back knee, walk the right foot forward just a little bit so you can firmly plant the right foot down into the ground. So your back foot will look sort of like the back foot of a warrior 1, which is different from warrior 2. So I might be tripping you up and I apologize, but right toes will point more towards the top right corner of your mat.
not necessarily the right side of the room, because we still want the right hip forward. All right, and then I'm gonna bring my blocks to the highest height, and we're gonna come into that same action. So we're gonna straighten the left leg, so both legs are now straight. Now you can keep your left foot flat on the ground, left toes on the ground, or for more of a stretch, we're gonna build on to what we just did. So this is gonna be more intense, so really listen. You might start to lift the bottom of your left foot up off the ground, letting just the heel rest on the ground, just like before. This is basically the half splits with the back knee lifted, a version of pyramid pose, Parsvottanasana. Reaching the left toes up towards the sky, the left heel forward. Now, you've got to square your hips. Draw your right hip forward, your left hip back. Squeeze your inner thighs in. Now, this should take some work. That's all right. So you might keep your back flat, chest lifted. You might round through your upper body, letting your chest fall, again, like knee to nose. Rounding through the upper body. Maybe that means ditching the blocks. Maybe that means lowering the blocks. Maybe not. Maybe none of those. But this version of pyramid pose, Parsvottanasana, 3 deep breaths. All right, and then firmly plant the left foot, bend the left knee, allow your chest to lift again. All right, let the back heel lift up off the ground. So all 10 toes are forward. You're sort of in this runner's lunge. Right heel off the ground, toes forward. Inhale, exhale, step forward. Forward fold, Uttanasana. Here in the center, feet hip distance apart. All right. Rounding forward, take a breath. Push the feet down. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold forward. Push the heels firmly down and inhale, rise all the way up. Make the legs do the work as you rise, as you lift. Bring your hands through to your heart. Arrive in Tadasana, mountain pose. Take a deep breath. Maybe just notice here how your two sides feel very different. And that doesn't mean that one side is right and one is wrong, or one is better and one is worse. They are just different. They are experiencing different things in this moment, and just observe. One more deep breath. All right, let's keep going. Inhale, reach the fingertips up towards the sky, maybe look up. Exhale, fold forward, hinge at the hips, Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen. Exhale, step the left foot back, all the way back, and then drop the left knee down onto the ground. You might pad under that left knee because we're going to be kneeling on it for a bit. I'm going to bring my blocks underneath my hands, under my shoulders, whenever you, and even if it's not with blocks actually, but anytime your hands are down in this sort of tabletop or lunge, you want hands right under shoulders. So you want to think about whether that, again, means you've got the blocks or not. Hands are generally under the shoulders. Okay, so you've got yourself set up. You're going to crawl the right foot forward, crawling it forward. It might take a lot of crawling. That's okay. So, and then allow the right toes to point up towards the sky, flexing that foot. So, left thigh is a vertical line, the femur. The hip and knee are stacked from all angles. If you look, if you sort of drop your head and look at your top of your thigh, if you sort of scoot over and you look at the side, it's a straight line from all viewpoints, from all perspectives. All right, and then we can just keep it there. It doesn't have to do anything once you've set it up. All right, now we're reaching the right heel forward, right toes to the sky, and the right hip back. So again, you can crawl your right foot way forward and make this look like a much more grand and large pose, but it's not gonna have the integrity or the benefits
that we're looking for. So belly button is pointing forward, again, maybe down a little bit, but forward, straight forward, sort of like the center of your mat, not over to the top left corner of your mat. You're drawing your right hip back, left hip forward to make that happen, and then continually right toes to the sky, heel forward. Now you absolutely could just focus here on the back of your leg, opening through the hamstrings. For a little bit more, and to create the forward fold action in the spine, you might start to fold forward. Drop the belly to the thigh, the chest to the shin, like you're dropping your knee to your nose. Now you might do that, you might not. Listen to your hamstrings, listen to your spine. But these are the half splits, Ardha Hanumanasana. Keep the integrity of the pose by keeping that left femur a straight line, a vertical line. The left hip forward, the right hip back, right toes to the sky, heel forward. 3 deep breaths here. Now slowly start to lift your upper body. Good, and then bend the right knee, slide that foot back a little bit so you can bend the right knee and plant the bottom of the right foot down onto the mat. All right, so again, hands under shoulders. Remember that we always want hands under shoulders. That might mean moving the hands. We're gonna hook the back toes under, lift the back knee up. So again, this is gonna be more intense. You're welcome to keep the back knee on the ground. We're gonna walk the back foot forward a little bit so we can ground it. Whole bottom of the left foot down. The heel needs to be down onto the ground. Left toes pointing a little bit closer to the top left corner of your mat. Also, this will be a little easier on your hips if your heels are positioned hip distance apart. So check out your heels. Each foot in its own lane of traffic, heels hip distance. All right, and then we straighten both legs and square the hips. Draw the left hip forward, right hip back. Now you might feel all that you need to feel here. I'm gonna lift my blocks a little. Now you might just stay here, keeping the back flat, right foot down on the ground, or you might reach your right toes up towards the sky, just shifting your weight into your right heel, bottom of the foot mostly lifted, right toes up. Okay, now ground the left heel. Push your left heel into the mat to propel the left hip forward. Draw the right hip back, right toes to the sky, maybe, that's optional. Now you might just focus here on your hamstrings, the back of the right thigh, feeling a stretch. Or maybe you want to add to it and round through the upper body, taking this version of pyramid pose, Parsvottanasana. Again, letting the belly fall to the thigh, the chest towards the shin, like you're drawing your knee to your nose. I'm sorry, your nose to your knee, not knee to the nose. I'm going to keep my chest lifted, but you take the version that feels good for you. Keep squeezing the inner thighs, drawing the left hip forward, right hip back. Feeling that length in the back of the right leg. 3 deep breaths here. Okay, and then slowly plant that right foot down onto the ground. Bend the right knee and let the left heel lift up off the ground. Toes all forward, again, sort of in this runner's lunge. Toes forward, left heel off the ground. Inhale. Exhale, step forward, forward fold, Uttanasana. Pause for a deep breath. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold forward.
Push the heels down, make the legs do the work as you inhale and rise. Fingertips to the sky. Maybe look up, bring your hands through to your heart. Take a deep breath into Tadasana, mountain pose. Okay. All right. So now we're going to move through a balance pose. So you might move and find a spot by the wall, or you might stay right where you're at, but I'm just going to turn to face you. So we're going to start with both feet flat onto the ground, weight back in the heels. You can wiggle your toes, really push the heels into the ground. So really you're in Tadasana, right? You're in mountain pose, pushing the heels down, free to wiggle the toes, pelvis in neutral, spine in neutral, shoulders soft. Okay, take a deep breath here. Okay, now slowly start to shift your weight into your left foot and slowly pick up the right heel. So you're just resting on the tip of your right big toe. Now you can pause here and just focus here. Any balance pose, find a dristi, something to look at. So maybe down and away, maybe up and away. Up and away reminds you to stand up tall. I also once had a teacher say, if you're gonna fall in a balance pose, fall up. So it allows you to fall up, as he would say. So light, lifted, upward energy might help to look up. And you might just focus on your right big toe resting on the ground. Maybe you just let it hover over the ground. Maybe you allow that right knee to lift. The knee comes at the same height as the hip. Thigh parallel to the floor, a horizontal line. Flex the right foot, toes will point forward. So your right leg is a series of right angles, sort of will look like a staircase. So straight to the side, straight down to the side. Do whatever you like with your arms. I always just like them alongside the body. But push your left heel down, stand up a little taller. 3 deep breaths here in a one-leg Tadasana. And then you can slowly let that right foot lower back down, really slow and controlled. Once it comes down, you can let your hips sort of sway or roll out the left ankle, whatever you need. And notice in your own body where places felt like they were working, because there's a lot of different spaces that could have been working. It really just depends on your body. So on your right leg, for example, your right leg, you might have felt it in your hip flexor. You might have felt it right here, really working hard to keep the leg up. That means your hip flexors are tight. Join the club, everybody's are. You might have felt your left leg working hard, maybe the glute med, maybe the glute max, maybe the hamstrings, maybe the quads, really a lot of different spaces. So those are opportunities to really notice what's going on in your own body. Okay, because I thought one spot was gonna feel it a lot more than another, and what happened was totally different from what I expected. So just notice those things in your own body. All right. So feet hip distance, weight in the heels, you can wiggle the toes. Relax your shoulders, lengthen your spine, find a dristi. Okay, shift your weight into the right heel, pick up the left heel, just come to the tip of the big toe. Pause here. Now, even here, you're probably tempted to point your belly button down towards the ground. Point your belly button forward, tuck the tailbone a little bit. Spine is in neutral. When the pelvis is in neutral, it has this domino effect for the whole rest of the torso. That's why it's so important. One of the reasons it's so important. All right, so you might keep the tip of the left toe down on the ground. You might let it hover. You might bend the left knee, letting the knee come up to the height of the hip, flexing the left foot toes forward. So again, a series of sort of zigzag lines, almost like the side profile of like a staircase, right? Okay. Ground the right heel. I forgot what side for a second. Ground the right heel. You can wiggle your right toes. Lengthen up through the crown of the head, relax the shoulders. Notice what feels like it's working hard. 3 deep breaths here. Ekapada Tadasana, one leg Tadasana. And then very slowly release that left leg, really slow and controlled. And then again, once that foot comes to the ground, you can let your hips sway, roll out your ankle, whatever you need. You just want to avoid shaking. Oftentimes people will sort of shake out their foot. Just roll it, do a little wave-like actions, movements that are a little less abrupt. Okay, oh, I still want to face forward. All right, so we're gonna come to a wide leg forward fold. So for most of this, I will not be facing the camera and you might not be able to see me, but I will try my best to use my words and hopefully you can still follow along. But if you have a block or blocks, bring them to the center of one of the long edges of your mat, because that's where we're gonna be. Okay, so you're gonna also be positioned like this. You're not facing one of the short edges of the mat, face one of the long edges of your mat with your block in front of you. Okay. Now we're gonna take the feet out wide. Think, even though we didn't do Warrior Two, think the leg position, how far away they are from each other, is similar to Warrior Two, which is pretty far. 4.5 feet, it's quite long. Especially for someone like me who's only 5 feet tall anyways. I'm 5'2", but you get it. Okay, so a wide, long stance here with your feet. Check out your feet. We want the outside edges of the feet to be 2 parallel lines, so you might have to hook the big toes in just a hair. All right, you're gonna push through your heels. Push through the outside edges of the feet. The pinky toe sides are pushing down. And push along the ball mount of the foot. So the base of the pinky toe all the way across to the base of the big toe. Basically everything but the arch, okay? I like hands at the hips, ground the feet. All the same actions you would do in Tadasana. Push your heels down, make sure the pelvis is in neutral, lengthen the spine, relax the shoulders, take a deep breath. All right, inhale, lengthen up through the crown of the head. Exhale, fold forward, hinge at your hips, keep your back flat as you lower. Okay, once you start to lower, you might bring your hands down onto a block or down 2 blocks. And you might just stay here in this halfway lift, reaching the crown of your head forward, your tailbone back. This is exactly like the halfway lift when our feet are hip distance apart. Same idea, but now your hands are just either on the ground or the block. Crown of the head forward, tailbone back, spine in neutral, pelvis pointing directly below it on the mat. Push the heels down, outside edges of the feet, and across the ball mount of the foot. So even the base of the big toe. Now you absolutely could stay here. Here you're gonna probably feel a stretch through maybe your glutes, your hamstrings, your inner thighs. But to make this a forward fold, Prasarita Padottanasana, you might round through your upper body. So you might walk your hands a little bit closer under your hips. And you might let your upper body round, dropping your head, looking through your legs to the wall behind you. Now you take any version of this pose that feels best for you. So that might mean hands under the shoulders and keep reaching the crown of the head forward, back flat. It might mean folding forward. And maybe even when you fold forward, you've got a few options. You might grab onto your ankles, sort of balancing here. Keep grounding through the feet though. You might bring your hands towards your lower back, interlace your fingers, reach your knuckles up towards the sky, and then like you're reaching your knuckles up over your head. Keep grounding through the heels, the outside edges of the feet, and the ball mount of the foot. Stay for 3 breaths. Now, if your fingers are interlaced, keep them interlaced. Just bring them back closer to your lower back. Release the hands, hands on the lower back, and let the hands slide alongside the backs of the thighs, all the way down towards your ankles, and then hands under the shoulders on the mat. Lift your chest up halfway, so hands back on blocks or the mat. Crown of the head forward, tailbone back. Spine is in neutral. Okay, now really push the feet down into the mat. Keep your spine as it is, parallel to the floor. Bring your hands to your hips and inhale, rise. Push the feet down, make the legs do the work as you rise up. All the way back upright. Okay, and then with your feet, you can heel toe your feet back together. There's no rush. So lots of spaces you could have been feeling those stretches. I often feel a lot of it through the outsides of my ankle, the outsides of my calves, the inner thighs, the backs of my thighs, my glutes, my lower back, and I took this version here, so my chest and my shoulders, lots of spaces, but as long as it's comfortable, that's what we're after. All right, come on back so you're facing the top of your mat, one of the short sides of your mat. Set up in Tadasana. So really think about Tadasana. We want to get into good habits. Tadasana is the foundation for all of our standing poses. If you can master this, you can transfer these skills to so many other poses. So again, a strong foundation in your feet, weight back in the heels, you can wiggle the toes. Pushing the heels down, pelvis in neutral, spine in neutral, chest lifted, shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed. Take a deep breath. Okay, inhale, reach the fingertips up towards the sky. Exhale, fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, step to downward facing dog, and we're only going to stay for a few breaths. And if down dog isn't really your thing, come to child's pose. That's fine. But I want you to feel this down dog if it's in your practice, and if this is somewhere that's comfortable for you to be, just notice how it feels here. We've done so many stretches in this direction. Notice how your down dog feels. Now again, you might bend your knees a little bit and really point your belly button toward your thighs. Notice that difference. Take a deep breath. All right, now slowly bend the knees. Let's come all the way down into tabletop. From tabletop, we're gonna come to a seat. So you can swing your legs around or get there however you need to. And just for the record, I'm doing a lot of alignment talking today. I hope you're cool with that. When I said that in down dog to tip your belly button towards your thighs, just to be clear, that goes for every time you're in down dog, not just because of what we're doing today. Sometimes I'll have you do a specific pose in a specific variation because it serves the purpose for what we're doing, but that actually is all the time. All the time, you want to think about tipping your belly button a little bit more towards your thighs in downward facing dog. Okay, something to think about. All right, we're going to come into some seated forward folds. So I'm going to face this way, sorry. All right, so we're going to lengthen our legs forward in front of us. All right, we're going to keep the right leg long, but bend the left knee. So you're sort of positioning your legs as if you would in tree pose almost, bottom of the foot to the inner leg. Now, might come to the thigh, might come to the knee, might come to the calf. Really doesn't matter as long as you're not pushing in. In tree pose, you're sort of wobbling and everything's sort of squishing and pushing and squeezing, but you're not pushing your foot in. So if it comes a little to the knee, that's all right. All right. I want you to really think about relaxing your left leg. The focus here is the right leg in the spine. So everything but the left leg, really. So left leg, let it relax. If you're feeling a stretch or something in it, that's okay, but let it relax. Just let it relax. All right.
Now, right foot, not so fast. This one's got to work a little. Right toes have got to point to the sky. They don't have to curl all the way back towards you, but there needs to be some engagement. We want the kneecap and the toes pointing directly up, not over to the side, up. All right. Hands are going to come down by your body, just somewhere so you can push down to sit up tall. Inhale. Exhale as you start to tip at your pelvis, belly button towards your right thigh, keeping your back flat as you tip forward. Now you might tip forward a little, you might tip forward a lot. Doesn't matter. We just want a comfortable stretch. So belly button towards the thigh is the most important thing here in this pose. This is where I mentioned that these forward folds, sometimes we don't move in the pelvis, and that's really where they originate. This is exactly the pose I was talking about when I meant that. So your belly button comes forward, and you might just pull your heart forward. You might kind of look at your right toes, and you might just keep your chest lifted. You might bring your hands onto your shin or grab your ankle or grab your foot. Just don't squeeze anything. And maybe you make it a true forward fold, stretching through the spine. You might round through your upper body, dropping your head, dropping your chest, like you're reaching your nose towards your knee. Folding forward, Janu Shirsasana. Now keep tipping your belly button toward your thighs. Keep reaching your right toes to the sky. Relax your shoulders and arms. Even if your hands are, again, holding on to something, relax. 3 deep breaths here. And slowly bring your hands under your shoulders or as close to your shoulders as you can. Push your hands down and inhale, lift your torso back upright. Okay, and then maybe use your hands to return your left leg. Bounce them out a little, maybe roll through the ankles. So in Janu Shirsasana, because we obviously have to do the second side, the long leg, you're going to feel a stretch to the back of it, anywhere in the back of it. Achilles, calf, knee, thigh, seat, any one of those spaces is acceptable. And then maybe through the lower back, maybe one side more than the other. Anything as long as it's comfortable. Okay, I'm going to flip around, but you can stay right where you're at. We're going to lengthen the left leg, bend the right knee. Bottom of the foot, somewhere to the inner leg line. Not really particular on where. Again, as long as you're not pushing. That's really the difference with tree and this. Okay. Right leg is going to relax. So you might feel stuff in your right leg, and that means that your right leg is still working when we want it to relax. So that's sort of a different issue, knowing how to relax, when to relax, how to get into that. That's a little different, but that's what we want. The right leg, just let it relax, let it take a break. All right, left leg is long, heel forward, toes to the sky. Again, not necessarily all the way back, but just some engagement. So your ankle sort of looks like a right angle. Hands will come down to help you lengthen. So all of this can be deeper if we're taller at the start. Right from the get, we want to lengthen, and then this can all be a little more efficient. Okay, so inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, belly button toward the thighs. Belly button towards the thighs. You know this by now. So you want to think about sort of reaching your seat back, because we want to lengthen your hamstrings. So we want to reach the left heel forward and your left sit bone back. That's how long, that's the space that we need to lengthen. All the way up here in your left sit bone, we want it to go back behind us. So that means the belly button has to come forward, and that's gonna tip everything forward. Okay. You're like, I know. Okay. So hands wherever you like, just don't squeeze. As long as the belly button continues to reach forward, you might keep your chest lifted and look sort of at your left toes. This might be all you need. This is a deep stretch. Or you might round forward, let the heart fall, chin to the chest, like you're reaching your nose towards your shin or your knee. Hands can be on the mat or on the body. Janushirasana. Allow your right leg to relax. Continue tipping your pelvis forward, belly button to the thighs, sit bones back. Left heel forward, left toes to the sky. Relax your shoulders, throat, neck, and jaw. We'll take 3 breaths here. Bring your hands under your shoulders. Push your hands down and inhale, lift your torso back upright. All right, and slowly return your right leg. Lengthen both legs. And again, take a few moments. Roll out the ankles, bop the legs around, whatever feels good. Maybe even through your spine. Again, if you're maybe feeling it in your low back, maybe move around there. All right, we're gonna do that one more time, this time with both legs extended. So, legs forward. This is our last forward fold, last forward bend. Okay. All right, so feet can be hip distance or together, whatever feels best. Now, here we want to try to keep the legs straight, just like Janushirasana. We're not trying to bend the knees and lift them up off the ground, because then it's putting a kink in the hose, and this isn't really any longer if there's a kink, right, if it's bent. So with both legs now, you're going to be really tempted to bend the knees. Try to keep them straight. It just might mean that you're not going to bend as far forward. So if you, maybe for example, let's say you got your nose really close to your knee, it's not going to get that close this time, because now you've got both hamstrings pulling you, and everyone's hamstrings are tight. So you're not going to fold forward that much this time. Set your ego aside, listen to your hamstrings. Please listen to your hamstrings. Okay, toes to the sky, heels forward, you know this. Push the hands down, inhale, sit up tall. Exhale, belly button forward, sit bones back, tip your pelvis forward. Okay, now, hands again might come to the shins, ankles, feet, or toes, just don't squeeze. They might just rest on the mat. That's usually what I do. Okay, now you might keep your chest lifted, your back flat. You might round through your upper body. Rounding forward, really making this a forward fold. So you're stretching from your heels all the way through the backs of the legs, through the seat, lower back, upper back, all the way up to the crown of the head, lengthening the entire back side. This is a seated forward fold, Paschimottanasana. Find a comfortable stretch. Find your version of Paschimottanasana, of this pose. Continue to breathe in a smooth, fluid way. Let's stay for 3 more breaths.
Slide your hands under your shoulders, by your hips. Push your hands into the ground. Inhale, lift. Rise up through the torso. Return your spine back upright. Take a deep breath. All right. Okay, we're going to come down onto our backs. So you can make your way down. Maybe you bring something under your head, maybe not. But otherwise you don't need anything. And come on down onto the back with the knees bent, feet flat. And again, that was our last forward bend, our last forward fold, but we're not done with the spine. Let the arms come out in opposite directions if you've got the room. Let your torso just feel heavy here. So we've been folding forward really consistently the last several poses. When you're on your back with your knees bent, feet flat, your spine is now in neutral. Notice this feeling, how different it feels. Unless that's just my back doing that. I am feeling a lot in my back. It feels good, but I'm feeling a lot. Just check in with your body. One more breath. All right. And just like how we started, let the knees sway side to side and move a little bit slower this time. Before we were warming up and we were sort of building up to start to get moving, but now we're doing the opposite. We are cooling down. We're slowing down, we're calming down. We want to start to bring everything a little bit closer back to stillness. Because Shavasana is right around the corner. And we want to really ease into Shavasana. I don't know if you've ever, whether you've taken a class or you've done yoga on your own, where you're moving, and then Shavasana. I don't know about you, but I don't really feel good in those types of Savasanas. I've got to really sort of ease into it. Move slow here, and then stillness becomes very easy. And so we want to think about doing that, making stillness easier for us in a few moments. So that might mean doing this with your eyes closed, or maybe slowing down your breath, not holding it, but maybe slowing it down. The legs sway a few more times. All right, now the next time the legs fall over to the left, let them stay there. You might scoot your hips over to the right. You might take a different leg variation. You might turn at your neck to look over your right shoulder. But we're not going to stay long. Just a few breaths. Allowing everything to relax and soften. 3 deep breaths here. If your head is turned, slowly return it to the center. Slowly return your legs, your hips, and your spine back to neutral. Everything back to the center. Take a big breath here. One more time, just a few times, let the legs sway. Move right and left. Really slow and comfortable and relaxed. Just a few more times. whenever you're ready, let the legs fall to the right. Let them stay. You might scoot the hips to the left. You might turn the neck to look over your left. But then settle. Come into this stillness. Come into the softness of this twist. No work needs to be done. Just soften. 3 breaths here. If your head is turned, slowly return it. Return the legs back to the center, hips and spine back to neutral. That might have been more than 3 breaths. I was really comfortable. I kind of lost track. Okay, and then take any movement that feels good. That might mean stillness. That might mean swaying the knees a few more times. There's no limit to how many times you can do something. So you might come back to that. Maybe just stillness. And then from wherever you're at, inhale. Exhale, hug the knees into your chest. You might stay here in Apanasana. You might take a happy baby. Either pose you can rock from side to side. And then when you are ready, settle into your Shavasana. I will be making my way up to a seat, but you stay on your back. Come on down again in your version of Shavasana, whatever that means, whatever that looks like. And once you've come into Shavasana, once you've come into corpse pose, you let the back side of your body feel very heavy. Again, allow the earth to feel like it is cradling you, like it is hugging you, because it is supporting you. The earth always has your back. So let it. Don't resist gravity. Feed into it. Let your body feel heavy. Let the earth support every muscle, bone, limb, every space of your body. Let it soften. Let it relax.
bring soft, subtle movements into your body. Let your head rock from side to side. Run your thumbs over the rest of your fingers as you wiggle your toes. Roll your wrists and ankles. Move your arms and legs. Reach your arms overhead, stretching as if you just woke up from a long nap. Fingertips and toes in opposite directions. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe out, hug your knees into your chest. Slowly roll over onto either side in a tucked fetal position. Keeping your eyes closed and using the strength of both arms, push down into the ground and come up to a comfortable seat. Take a moment here to thank yourself for making it to your mat today. And maybe reflect on your intention. Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. Now slowly join your hands together in front of your heart in Anjali Mudra. We'll seal the practice by chanting the sound of Om one time. Om is said to be the oldest and most sacred mantra. It's referred to as the seed sound, the first sound that ever existed. All sounds following came from the sound of Om. Again, we'll chant the sound of Om just one time. Let's start with a deep and clearing breath. Inhale for Om. The light or the good in me acknowledges, respects, and bows to the light or the good in you. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me. Again, this was a gentle yoga practice focusing on forward folds. You know that. I said it a million times, I feel like. You know all about forward folds by now. So thank you again so much for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Bye.